Hello and welcome back. We've taken a significant leap forward, connecting a powerful external AI service, specifically a model hosted on Hugging Face, into our XGENIA application. Today, to store data, let's create an array. But before that, we need to prepare the nodes we need in XGENIA. Connect the Store Data node to API connection. Choose Model ID, Provider, and API key for both inputs and outputs. Then, tidy it up. Now connect the input node to API connection and choose text output and user messages input. Don't forget to connect the send button to function node. Choose click output and send data input so we can execute any prompt on the chatbot later. As we connect the input node with text output, it would be better to rename it as user messages to make it clear. Let's create a new function node and name it Store Response to Array. Then, followed by a new array node. Name it Array Responses, and let's write down the logic inside this node. Before we run any of the complicated logic, the system needs to make sure it has the proper go-ahead signal. This step checks to see if that signal is missing. If the trigger to update the data isn't there, the system just stops right away. This is a fast way to prevent the app from wasting time or causing errors when it hasn't been asked to do anything. Right here, we're declaring a constant variable, API data, using const. This line is the crucial gateway. It pulls the raw return JSON data from the upstream node, specifically from the built-in inputs, API response data property, and assigns it a simple local name so we can start processing the live data. This line is how we capture direct user interaction. The const declares an immutable variable named userMessage. It pulls the value from the inputs object, specifically the userMessage property, which is likely the text the user typed into an input field or a chat box. This is the critical first step to processing any user-driven logic. This line creates a variable named existingHistory. It looks for any old messages that were passed into this step from the last step. This is an important check to stop errors before they happen. The code immediately checks if the necessary data is available. If it's missing, it stops running and sends an error signal, so the system doesn't crash trying to use bad information. So in short, the code checks for data. If it's not there, it sends an alert, and then it slams on the brakes to prevent a major system crash. Now we add a check to make sure the history data is actually a list or an array. The line is the history not a real array. If it's not a list, it means the data is broken. So this code simply checks to make sure your previous chat messages are delivered in a perfect list format. If they aren't, it immediately raises an error and stops to prevent the program from breaking. This line is all about safely getting the answer from the server. The symbols called optional chaining are key. They tell the code, only look for the next thing if the one before it exists. We are drilling down into the complex API data to find the bot's actual text or content without crashing if any part of the path is missing. Right after that, the second block is our final error check. If bot reply, this asks, did we successfully find the bot's answer? If the answer is empty or missing, we set an outputs error message that explains the final text content wasn't found. We use outputs invalid data to signal the failure and return to stop, making sure our app doesn't try to display a blank or broken message. First, we have this line. This is just a helper function. It creates a short, unique text string, like a temporary serial number, for every single message. This ID is important for XGENIA to know which message is which. Next, we create a new variable called newPairedMessage. This is a single object that holds both the user's message and the bot's reply together. We clearly label each part, role user and content user for the user's input, and role assistant and content assistant for the bot's reply. We also use our generated function to give both messages a unique ID for tracking. This line is how we make a safe, clean copy of the old chat history. We use the spread operator inside the array brackets to grab every item from existing history and put it into a brand new variable called newHistory. This is essential so we don't accidentally change the old history data while we add the new messages. This line is the final step to updating our chat history. This makes the new, complete conversation ready to be displayed and passed to the next step. This line describes the program taking the brand new cleaned up chat history, which includes the latest reply, and sending it out to be stored or used by the rest of the application. It's like stamping the package with the final, updated address. This is the final confirmation signal. It tells the entire system everything worked perfectly, the data is updated, and you can proceed to the next step, like showing the user the new message. All right, the code is set. Let's continue to connect store response to array response. Then choose update array data for output and item for input. Then do the other way around and connect items output to existing chat history input. Now follow the logic. When our run function executes successfully, we want it to trigger that update. So drag a line from success right into update data. And of course, we need the actual payload. Get back to API connection node and connect it to store response array. Then connect the API response data and user messages variables. This ensures the response gets pushed into our message history. Jump over to our screen design and select the array component and connect it to repeater component. Choose item for output and input. This is what's going to render our list of chat bubbles. Inside the repeaters scope, we have the layout groups, but we need to define the data structure explicitly so the UI knows what to display. We're grabbing an object node here. This represents a single item in our chat array. We need to manually add the property keys that match our JSON response. Let's add content_user. Then add content_assistant for the second property. Those will help us to differentiate between the user and the bot. Now for the binding. Let's drag a connection from our content_user property directly to the text message component input. Do the same for the content assistants, but connect it to the other text message in the bottom. We need to configure the provider details. Let's head over to our variable inputs. Then, paste the value we've got from huggingface.co. And of course, the API key. We'll paste the secure key into this string value node. For this build, passing it as a string works fine. Alright, it's set for this session. Your data is flowing from the code into the array and rendering on the screen. Congratulations! In the next session, we will start trying to use the chatbot and debugging it. Thanks for watching. Get XGENIA for free today at xgenia.ai and start building smarter and faster than ever.